what's going on, man? CGMTV, live and direct. We got a lot of things to talk about, but the first thing that I want to get into, the first sport that I want to get into, is basketball. And I want to get into the top 5 trades that I have inside of my mind, which I call this segment the GMC. And this is where I put a lot of GMs under hot fire. And, you know, sometimes I give them the opinion of not only myself, of others. So I got the top 5 trades that I think would be likely to happen within both organizations and that would help both organizations. So let's get into them. Number 1, the Los Angeles Lakers trade with the Phoenix Suns for D'Angelo Russell, for Eric Bledsoe, and draft picks. Now, the reason why I say this can help both teams is because D'Angelo Russell is proving that he's not a passing point guard. He's more of a scoring point guard, which isn't bad, but at the same time, you know, the Lakers don't need a scoring point guard as where they have one coming off the bench already in Lewis Williams. So, to me, I'm like, who's more valuable, Lewis Williams or D'Angelo Russell? And for this team, for this specific team, it would be Lewis Williams. And the reasoning why is because you have a Jordan Clarkson who is a actual better all-around player than D'Angelo Russell. I'm not saying that he's a better scorer. I'm not saying that he's a better prospect. I'm just saying overall, when you look at the numbers, Jordan Clarkson is a better player than D'Angelo Russell overall. And I mean, as far as rebounds, as far as assists, as far as steals, Jordan Clarkson can do a lot more than D'Angelo Russell. So that's why I say maybe, you know, you get Eric Bledsoe in there, who's a passing point guard. You know, he's 6'2", 6'3", and he's about like 25, maybe 26 years old. So he's not old. He still has about a good 8 to 10 years left. So it's not like you're trading away the future for some over-the-hill player. You're trading the future of maybe a scoring Lakers team to the Phoenix Suns for I wouldn't say same age, because D'Angelo Russell is 20. Eric Bledsoe probably has about 5 to 6 years over him. But, you know, that's not bad considering the fact that D'Angelo Russell is 20 years old and Eric Bledsoe is 25, 26 years old. And he's a better passer than D'Angelo Russell, which could work out for Timothy Mozgov, which could work out for Julius Randle. And also, Eric Bledsoe is just more athletic. He has a jump shot. I feel like it could work out for both teams because I think that D'Angelo Russell could be the scoring guard that the Phoenix Suns need in a very, very bad way. The Phoenix Suns need some type of offensive explosion. Devin Booker isn't really looking like the shooting guard that a lot of people thought that he was going to be, which isn't a fault to Devin Booker because, I mean, he does put up numbers. I mean, he's averaging close to 20 points, but that's not enough, you know. So I think that with D'Angelo Russell and Devin Booker out there, they could put up huge numbers, have huge success with him not really being the focal point of getting a lot of assists out there, because D'Angelo Russell has proven over the past at least year and a half or a year and a quarter that he's not a passing point guard. He's more of a scoring point guard. Second trade, LaMarcus Aldridge for DeMarcus Cousins. Why can this help both teams? Because LaMarcus Aldridge is the scoring center that the Sacramento Kings need. They don't need someone that is as ball heavy as DeMarcus Cousins is, because they have a lot of young talent on their team. like Rudy Gay, Ben McLemore, Kusis Kofish, and a couple of other cats, a couple of other players, should I say, that can actually provide great offense for their team. And I think that LaMarcus Aldridge is just selfish enough, or should I say unselfish enough? You could say either or. Unselfish or selfish enough to where it fits for that Sacramento team. I think that Willie Cauley-Stein, LaMarcus Aldridge, Rudy Gay, Ben McLemore, Darren Collison, Ty Lawson, that could be a very, very good team with that player because he's a lot more reserved than DeMarcus Cousins is. I think that DeMarcus Cousins under Popovich's guidance can be a huge, huge pickup for the Spurs that could possibly send them into future champion contendership, should I say. I feel like DeMarcus Cousins needs a coach like Popovich to be able to reel him in sometimes whenever he gets a little out of hand and he feels like the world is on his shoulders. To have a player like Kawhi Leonard backing him up, because I do think that DeMarcus Cousins would end up being the leader at that point. But, I think that DeMarcus Cousins, Kawhi Leonard, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker can make a very, very strong run into the NBA playoffs and will make a very, very solid contender for the Spurs. But LaMarcus Aldridge could also send the Kings into the playoffs. Just imagine if the Spurs were to gain the number 1 seed and then end up facing the Sacramento Kings with the number 8 seed. That would be crazy. Number 3, Jimmy Butler for Klay Thompson. I mean, this is only obvious. I mean, the Warriors need the defense. They need to take a step back on the offense. Not a huge step back, but enough of a step back to where it's not as obvious. I think that Klay Thompson is a great scorer on a team that has one too many great scorers. I always said 3 great scorers is one too many. You need 2 great scorers. That's what made the Warriors great last year, was that they had 2 great scorers and an exceptionally decent scorer in Draymond Green. You had Steph Curry as a great scorer, Klay Thompson as a great scorer, and then Draymond Green, who was the exceptionally decent scorer. And, I think that once you added Kevin Durant, it became one too many great scorers. Because now you have Steph Curry, you have Klay Thompson, and you have Kevin Durant. All of them great scorers. Even though their shot distribution is just about the same as it was last year for each player, that doesn't mean that it's offensively working well for each player. And that's where I think that a lot of the confusion is coming in, is that I think that a lot of people are thinking that, because they have the same amount of shots as they did last year, it's just fine. No, it doesn't work that way, because you have to have offensive chemistry. And I feel like, the chemistry isn't there. I feel like Klay Thompson may be just a little bit too much of an offensive scorer to be in the offense with Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Yeah, I think it may be time to part ways. The Warriors need that kind of defense on their front line. And I feel like it could work for both teams. Now, of course, when you pick up Jimmy Butler, you got to put him in shooting guard, which I think would be fun. And once you put Klay Thompson on the Bulls, you gotta put him at small forward, which I think would be fine as well because Klay Thompson is 6'7", 225 pounds, an exceptionally well defender. So that will work well with the Bulls because I mean, you know, you don't lose any defense when you pick up a Klay Thompson from a Jimmy Butler. So that's my third trade. My fourth trade, Andrew Wiggins for Paul George. This could possibly be my number one pick. My number one trade, should I say. And the reason why I say that this could be my number one trade is because Andrew Wiggins is the kind of player that needs to be a leader of a team. With him being on the team with Karl Anthony Towns, he's not going to be the leader of the team. It's kind of like Shaq and Kobe meeting up at the same age. There's no way that Kobe's going to take that team away from Shaq, no matter how many points he averages, no matter how well his numbers are on the offensive end from the field and from the three-point line. You're going to lean toward Karl Anthony Towns because you can't teach height. And, you know, I feel like Andrew Wiggins would thrive in the Indiana scheme as to where I think that Paul George has never really cracked over that superstar status. I think he's always been in that star realm. You know, 23, 24 points, 6, 7 rebounds, 3, 4 assists. And that's not, like, you know, if you sit back and you say at his numbers at best, 24 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, is that really MVP-like numbers? I don't think so. And I don't think that Paul George is a 30 or even a 26, 27 point a night guy. He's more of a 23, 24 point night a guy. He's more like an advanced version of Scottie Pippen. But he doesn't handle the rock as well as Scottie Pippen. So you can't really say too much more of an advanced version of Scottie Pippen because Scottie Pippen was able to advance the rock past the court, play point guard, and set up the offense. I feel like that with the Minnesota Timberwolves, if you pick up Paul George, who's still like maybe 27, 28 years old, you have a legitimate second option to Karl Anthony Towns that can possibly put up about 40 points on a hot night, and you know, on a cold night it would be about 12 to 15 points, which is typical for a star player. A superstar player, a cold night could be 18 points, 6 of 18 from the field. And I feel like that's what Andrew Wiggins is. That's his makeup. He's a superstar. He needs to have his own team. And it looked like that was going to happen for a minute until they drafted Karl Anthony Towns. So I feel like Andrew Wiggins to Indiana could be a very, very big superstar move for them that wouldn't be so egregious to trade him for Paul George, because Paul George is built more to be a second option than he is to be a first option. And the last trade, a trade that has been brewing for a long, long time in the NBA circuit, Blake Griffin for Carmelo Anthony. A lot of people look at me and be like, the Clippers are on a run, they're doing great, you know, why would you trade Blake Griffin at this very given moment for Carmelo Anthony? And it's simple, because the Clippers are the Clippers. I hate saying it, but it's the truth. The Clippers are the Clippers. And at some point, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, and DeAndre Jordan will not work. It's been proven over the past 5 years or so. Maybe less than that, maybe about 4 years. 4 to 5 years, give or take. The Clippers have proven that they can't make this mesh the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan mix. So, one way to fix it, trade for Carmelo Anthony. The New York Knicks desperately need a power forward. I must say that in the worst way. The New York Knicks desperately need a power forward. They need to move Kristaps Porzingis to the center. They need to have Blake Griffin as their power forward, and then they can work one of their other role players into small forward. I think that it's a lot easier to work a small forward into being a defensive player than it would be to work a Kristaps Porzingis or a O'Quinn into trying to be a defensive power forward. It just won't work. So you trade for Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin isn't a defensive power forward, but he's good enough on the offensive end, and he gets enough rebounds to where it would offset his defensive efforts. And Carmelo Anthony is a small forward that the Clippers desperately need. They have a whole lot of big bodies, but they don't have a small forward. They have Wesley Johnson and Paul Pierce. Wesley Johnson and Paul Pierce. I mean, that explains itself right there. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm like, the Clippers would be great if they were to have a small forward, should I say, like a Luol Deng. You know, a small forward that can play offense and defense. But when you bring in a offensive player like Carmelo Anthony, who can score about 40 to 50 on any given night, and you have someone like Chris Paul getting him to rock, it's a whole lot. It's a vastly different story, because the one thing that the Clippers desperately need more than anything is a consistently offensive score. And that's why I say Blake Griffin for Carmelo Anthony would be a perfect trade for both teams. The New York Knicks would get themselves an explosive power forward that they need. You can always piece in a defensive. Heck, you may even be able to trade Blake Griffin and Wesley Johnson for Carmelo Anthony and O'Quinn. You know, that way you pick up a power forward and a small forward for a power forward and a small forward. I think that will work perfectly for both teams, because both teams need that switch. Now, with the success of Luke Walton, are the Los Angeles Lakers the example that old school, pounded in the post offense is non-existent? And I hate to say this, but it's the truth. Excuse me, y'all. Had to take myself a drink. But, you know, I don't think that low post basketball is focused on enough. I don't think centers are appreciated enough. And I feel like, you know, the small ball thing has worked its way into the hearts of plenty of fans out there in America. So, you know, I thought this small ball was going to be a fad, and that, you know, big time ball was going to be the prime time thing in American basketball, but it's not. Big men have become relegated to being the second tier stars to the guards and the forwards of the league. And the Steph Currys and the LeBron Jameses of the world will continue to rule the throne of basketball, as to where, you know, the big men have to take a step down. Now, if I think that the trade between the San Antonio Spurs and the Sacramento Kings could actually work. And you get the DeMarcus Cousins, and DeMarcus Cousins is able to showcase his abilities as being a winning big man, then maybe that can actually change. But as far as the landscape of basketball is concerned, it's small ball oriented from now on. And we just got to get used to that. The Mount Rushmore of basketball. A lot of people have been debating this topic, and I'm going to give you my Mount Rushmore of basketball supremacy. So, number one, of course, Michael Jordan, the GOAT. Number two, Magic Johnson. 5 championships, 3 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs, top 5 in assists. I mean, you can go down the accolades and the achievements that he has achieved over his career, and that's why I say Magic Johnson number 2. Number 3, LeBron James. That's the number 3 hit on the Mount Rushmore of basketball. 3 titles, 4 losses, 4 MVPs. 4 MVPs. And, I mean, 3 Finals MVPs. The list goes on. Rookie of the Year. A triple-double walking. And, he's just... He's the perfect blend of what Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson as a player fusion together as. And, for the first 8 to 9 years of his career, he was Michael Jordan. And now, until his later years of his career, he's Magic Johnson. So, I feel like LeBron James is number 3. Number 4, Tim Duncan. Yes, Tim Duncan over Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And the reasoning why is because Tim Duncan played in a way harder era, in the modern era, than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did in the older era, and what I should say, the classic era. And I feel like if Kareem Abdul-Jabbar probably would have stayed with the Milwaukee Bucks and won 2 to 3 championships with the Milwaukee Bucks instead of going to the Lakers and winning 5 as the sidekick of Magic Johnson, it would have been a lot different than what it was throughout his career. So that's my Mount Rushmore. Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, LeBron James, Tim Duncan. Let me know what you think in the comments. Now I'm going to go with the top 5-0, no police, the top 50 players in the NBA today. Number 50, Brook Lopez. Great offensive scorer, but he lacks defense. So that's why he's my number 50 player. Number 49, DeAndre Jordan. Great defensive player, but he lacks offense. So that's why he's my 49th player. Number 48, Lou Williams. Can put up numbers in bunches. Reminds me of Manu Ginobili off the bench for the Spurs. But also like Manu Ginobili, he's not really a good defender. Number 47, Jabari Parker. The boy can play. He puts up numbers and he puts in work. But I would like to see him translate his skill to defensive awareness. Number 46, Miles Turner. I feel like this kid has the potential to be Andrew Wiggins' number 2 sidekick. He has the potential to put up 20 and 10. He's going to be a great player. But I feel like Andrew Wiggins would be the leader if they were to make the trade for Andrew Wiggins and Paul George. Number 45, Harrison Barnes. He started off the year really, really strong. And I feel like that's only going to continue as the Mavericks, who were a dark horse for me as far as, being able to upset maybe the Warriors or the Spurs, aren't looking good. So, I mean, that's a bad pick by me, but hey, I make bad picks sometimes. Number 44, Serge Ibaka. Serge Ibaka went to the Orlando Magic. To become the main option. It's not really working too well. The Magic aren't really doing well. Serge Ibaka still hasn't proven that he can play offense and defense. It's either he's an offensive player or he's a defensive player. He can't do it both for some kind of reason. So, Serge Ibaka, number 44. Number 43, Mike Conley. The highest paid player in the NBA is the number 43rd player in the whole league, in my opinion. That's enough said right there. Bradley Beal. I've always been big on Bradley Beal. 6'4", stocky player, can play offense, can play defense. But for some kind of reason, him and John Wall can't get on the same page. Even though John Wall is a passing point guard, for some kind of reason, they just can't seem to make it work. So who knows? Maybe a trade for him would be good in the future for his style. So we'll see. And the last one, number 41, Rudy Gay. I feel like this guy is defensively and offensively talented, but in ways he's been held back by DeMarcus Cousins. And the reasoning why I say that is because DeMarcus Cousins demands the ball a lot because of his talent, and justifiably so. So when you have a talent like Rudy Gay that's out there that's demanding that type of attention, with him being the age that he is, because I mean he's like 29, 30. So Rudy Gay is not old. I mean, you have to respectfully, fulfill his wishes. And I feel like once you make that trade for LaMarcus Aldridge, that LaMarcus Aldridge isn't as ball dominant as DeMarcus Cousins is, and it will work out for Rudy Gay's interest with the Sacramento Kings. In the last segment, this is a very serious segment, so I'm going to get very, very serious with you. Should the NBA expand its stadiums to bigger capacity to rival the NFL and the Major League Baseball organizations? And I say yes. By far. You can charge cheaper tickets. You can sit back and fill up stadiums way easier than NFL teams and MLB teams can. And honestly, you can put the whole conversation between is football or is baseball America's sport. America's sport has always been basketball. America's sport has always been basketball. Jersey sales, shoe sales, all kinds of sales outside of the product that is being put out there on the court has been dominated by basketball. It won't change. It won't ever change. Merchandise sales. I won't say ratings, because ratings have been dominant as far as this nation is concerned with the Super Bowl. Super Bowl, World Series, NBA Finals. But the NBA Finals isn't so far behind from the Super Bowl to where it's a foregone conclusion that football could be the very well third sport in American nation culture as far as today is concerned. I feel like basketball has completely leaped over football and baseball as far as international bounds are concerned. They have played games in London, they've played games in Mexico, they've played games everywhere. Why? Because basketball is a more worldwide, nationally accepted sport than football and baseball. Ironically, because baseball is predominantly American and Japanese culture, as to where basketball is not only American, Japanese, but Chinese, Australian, European. You can go to just about any other country and see if they play basketball as much as Americans do. And I guarantee you that they play basketball just as much as Americans do. And they're as interested in the game as Americans are. And Americans are more interested in the game of basketball than they are in football and they are in baseball. I see more Steph Curry, even Allen Iverson jerseys on the backs of young Hispanics, young blacks, young, Caucasian males than there are Mike Trout jerseys and Madison Bumgarner jerseys on the backs of Hispanics and blacks and white males that are 17 to 34 years of age, or any age. I mean, like, you go out into the streets of Atlanta, of Chicago, of Dallas, of Los Angeles, of Phoenix, and you see more basketball jerseys on the backs of young men and women who buy these types of memorabilia and buy these types of replicas to sport them while their team plays their sport. So, to me, basketball is the most popular sport in America, and as far as I'm concerned, the whole world. Even though popular consent would tell you that America's sport is football, and America and the world sport is soccer, I strongly disagree with both of those notions, because I don't see soccer jerseys worn all over the place by not only Americans but people that are not actually considered Native Americans. And I wouldn't say Native Americans as far as Indians are concerned, but I mean Native Americans as far as the culture of whites and Indians are concerned. And Hispanics are concerned. I feel like you would see a lot more Neymar jerseys, Rolando jerseys, if soccer were a worldwide sport as they like to promote it to be. And you don't see a lot of Drew Brees jerseys compared to Steph Curry jerseys, and Steph Curry shoe sales and stuff like that. So that's why I feel like the capacity for a normal basketball team should be around 65,000. If you can get it up to about 65,000 to 90,000 per arena/stadium, then you would see why basketball would be considered the worldwide sport of all sports. That's it for CGMTV. basketball edition, and we'll be seeing you very, very soon for the wrestling edition. Peace. I'm out. One.